Today we're going to kind of go into kind of a controversial topic. We're going to talk about drugs, like marijuana, PEDs, of course, in combat sports and jiu-jitsu, MMA, kickboxing, and boxing. And as we know, that most sports, most great athletes like Lance Armstrong, they get caught. John Jones, the greatest fighter ever, gets caught with steroids. And some people, the question is, would these fighters reach these levels if they weren't on steroids? And since the John Jones controversy, it's been trending in social media. The question is John Jones only good because of the steroids? And people wonder if John Jones could have beat DC twice if he wasn't on steroids. Because as you see with the OSP fight, he kind of looked ordinary. He looked normal. He looked beatable. He looked human. And so people in that fight, of course, he passed both tests before the pre-fight test and the post-fight test. And that fight wasn't his best performance, and that could have been because of ring rust or because of been the lack of steroids or PEDs.
John Jones, that whole controversy with him and the PEDs, it kind of smudges his career because nowadays there's doubt in, what if he wasn't on steroids, or what if he wasn't on this or on that? Would he have been able to beat DC? And then now people are questioning his fight against Vitor Belfort. Yeah. When he fought Vitor Belfort, Vitor was still on fucking, what was this shit called? TRT. So a lot of John Jones victories now are starting to become questionable. I think he's a great fighter. I don't really want to question him so much because PEDs are not just going to give you tactical advantages as well. That's something that you learn inside a gym. That's something that you learn through drilling and practicing things over and over again. But overall, like a lot of his victories become questionable because of this whole scandal that he's involved in.
He's been flagged several times by USADA, and USADA, which is kind of has been cleaning the UFC and MMA. In boxing, the drug testing is kind of weird because like Floyd Mayweather is the promoter, and when he fought Andre Berto was getting tested every week, and Andre Berto raised the question: is Floyd Mayweather getting tested the same as he was? And his last fight, he looked exceptionally good physically, so many people were considering him, we thought that he was on steroids. And same thing with jiu-jitsu. Someone like Paulo Miao, who's world champion in jiu-jitsu, he got tested positive for PEDs and the IBJJF. And since there are thousands of competitors in jiu-jitsu, you can't possibly test every single one. It's just too expensive. So jiu-jitsu, jiu-jitsu league like IBJJF, only test big matchups like the finals of a tournament, and that's when Paulo Miao tested positive. And this week, the Abu Dhabi championships just finished off, and you see Gordon Ryan, who I personally think he's on steroids. He won gold, the first American to win gold in ADCC. His veins were bigger than my thumb, and he won. He's very talented. He's a young man who's very talented, but I personally think he's on steroids. Although it is possible that he just worked hard and ate right and did all the training right, but the possibility of him doing steroids are high because ADCC does not test for steroids, and he looks extremely good, and so.
Some of these athletes are like superb freaks of nature, so sometimes it's really hard to tell if these guys are on something or not. But besides PEDs, there's other drugs that pretty much USADA was trying to come hard on. For example, like marijuana. Although marijuana, in my opinion, it's not really anything that gives you like an advantage in combat sports. It's just pretty much like a relaxer. It gives you no type of advantage. Like I think like 2-3 years ago with the suspension they were trying to give Nick Diaz, that was just absurd. I think that was just crazy, man. 5 years for a drug that really gives you no type of advantage in competition.
And that would have basically been the end of his career. That would have happened. He still got banned suspended for about a year. So then he still hasn't fought. So everybody knows that the Diaz brothers are constantly smoking weed. So there's no point of wasting a test for marijuana. You test them for PEDs, testosterone, all other stuff. But marijuana, it doesn't give you an edge. It's, you shouldn't fight while high, but if you're if you're smoking a little weed here and there before or after a fight, I don't think you should be penalized for doing so, for having a little fun.
The sport itself needs the cleaning because these guys are combat sports athletes. These guys are getting punched over and over and over again. And as you guys may know, later on in life, some of these guys end up with brain damage and end up having Parkinson's and all these other diseases. but some of the stuff could be avoided, right? Because a lot of these supplements, they give you like a bit of an edge physically, and you don't want to end up in a position where you kill a guy because you were on some PEDs or on some type of steroids.
Those were our opinions of steroids and drugs in general. So we want to hear from you. Do you guys think that we should, that the combat sports, just let everybody go on steroids, have a fair playing ground? That everybody's on steroids, or just basically this fair playing ground, right? Or should boxing, jiu-jitsu, and UFC continue to try to eliminate the steroid use in combat sports? So that'd be it for us for today.